water was going to be dirty, but I had no idea that it would be dirtier than my first round of cleaning with a bucket mop. With the release of so many new household products the last few years, you're probably wondering if new technology beats out old school methods and if that convenience is worth shelling out money for. Today I'm going to be comparing the Tineco 2-in-1 vacuum and mop system against the good old-fashioned, trusted and loved Ocedar Bucket Spin Mop. So I've always loved the Ocedar Bucket Spin Mop system. It's been convenient, it's been easy, I have several videos on it, but when the Tineco 2-in-1 mop vacuum got released, the convenience of it all really had me interested, and I went ahead and I purchased one. If you're unfamiliar with the Tineco mop system, what it is, it's a 2-in-1 system that while it's vacuuming your floors, it's also washing them. It's mopping them simultaneously. It has two different chambers, one for the clean water and the solution, and one water is dispensed into. So the idea is that you don't need to separately sweep your floors before you go ahead and wash them. However, with the price tag ranging from anywhere from like $200 all the way up to $500 for some of the more complex systems, I wanted to put it up against a very cheap alternative, the good old-fashioned system of a bucket and a mop. And so today we're going to see just how well these two systems fare against each other. We're going to look at things like how much time does it take to vacuum with the bucket mop versus the Tineco 2-in-1 system, the ease of mopping with both systems, as well as comparing the dry times between the bucket mop and the Tineco mop. We'll look at the time that it takes to clean up both systems, and most importantly, what I really want to do is I want to see just how much dirt does the Ocedar Bucket Spin Mop leave behind. So what I'm going to do is after I've already mopped my floor, I'm going to go over it with the Tineco to see how much dirty water it's going to pick up from the bucket mop. So for today's test, what I'm doing is I have my downstairs floor, which encompasses my dining area and my kitchen. I'm going to start out using the Ocedar Bucket Mop system. I'm going to do a deep thorough clean as I normally would. I would like to note that with the bucket system, I did have to spend the additional time and make sure that I swept my floors, that they were not filled with crumbs. Otherwise, if you know anything about mopping with a bucket and a mop, when you're pushing around crumbs and food, it's really nasty. So of course I had to take the additional time to sweep everything up first. In order to be fair with both tests, I use the same cleaning solution in both systems. So this is a Tineco cleaning and deodorizing solution that came with the Tineco mop, but I went ahead and I just put it into the clean water container for the Ocedar Bucket Spin Mop. I will say though that from the very beginning, the Ocedar Bucket Spin Mop, how many times can I say that right? The spin mop method is a lot more labor intensive from the very beginning, simply because of the weight of the bucket, because of the amount of water that is required. Once everything was all set, I was ready to go ahead and start mopping. One of the really nice things that I really appreciate about the mop system is the size of the mop head. It's not too big and it's perfect for getting into tiny little nooks and crannies, the crevices, and it's really great for getting underneath furniture. I also love that the handle provides you with full control of how much pressure you're going to put on the mop head, especially when you're trying to scrub, clean like stuck on messes. You can really control the pressure. I also love the ability to adjust the dampness of the mop. If there are areas that require more water, I am free to have a mop head that is more wet, but if I want to have it slightly more dry, I also have that ability by wringing out more. Okay, so I got about halfway done with the downstairs before I ran out of water, which is, you know, the downside of this bucket mop system I've mentioned in previous videos before. So I went ahead and I took a moment and I refilled the solution with the water and I proceeded to continue cleaning the rest of my floors. I also noticed that with the bucket mop, when I was mopping, there were some areas that I had missed the crumbs when I was sweeping. So I had to stop, pause, pick up those crumbs, little bits of trash, throw that out before I could continue mopping. So I most definitely worked up a sweat mopping with the bucket mop. It was very labor intensive. If you are someone who has back problems, who has maybe some physical restraints, this is probably something you don't look forward to doing because it was genuinely difficult to get through just even half of it. I was already pretty sweaty. I was looking around the heavy bucket. So just from there, I wasn't even used to that feeling or feeling that out of breath from mopping my floor because I had been using the Tineco for a few months now. Okay, now you can see that I am dumping out the dirty water into the sink to check how much dirt the mop was able to pull. You can see just how much dirt it cleaned, but also take a note of the amount of water and keep that in mind for when you see me using the Tineco. having to pull this amount of water from the kitchen to the bathroom was actually quite a task in itself. You can see the water's pretty murky, it's pretty cloudy, so I know that the mop did a good job of cleaning the floors because I can see the results in the water. Okay, now for the fun part, we're going to move on to cleaning with the Tineco mop system. I'm gonna take my Tineco mop, I'm gonna fill it up with the same water and solution. Also, look at the tiny amount of water needed, and we're going to go over the exact same area we did with the Ocedar, and let's see what it left behind. I started in the same exact area and I moved in the same direction. As I saw a few crumbs that were left behind, I didn't have to stop and pick them up. I was able to just move right along and the vacuum sucked them right up all at the same time while cleaning my floors. A drawback to the Tineco that I would say, of course, is the size of the brush head, and you'll clearly see that it can't get into the tiniest of corners like the Ocedar was able to, but you can also see the efficiency and speed that the Tineco is able to wash the floor. Already you can see how dirty the water chamber is filling up with the water from the same floor that was just mopped with a bucket system minutes before. Also, another thing to take notice is the amount of time it took for the wet floor to dry. It was probably a quarter of the time for the Tineco versus what it took for the Ocedar bucket mop. I also had to stop halfway through with the Tineco to refill my clean water and solution chamber. However, this took me about a minute total to do so, and I didn't have to lug a heavy dirty water bucket to my sink or my toilet to get rid of the dirty water. So that was definitely a bonus. I finished off what was left on the floor to clean, and then I dumped the remainder of the dirty water into the sink. I knew the water was going to be dirty, but I had no idea that it would be dirtier than my first round of cleaning with a bucket mop. Remember, this water is from a floor that was thoroughly washed just minutes before. To be fair, the color is more concentrated and dark because it is in a smaller quantity of water than the bucket water was, but I was definitely not expecting it to be this dark and full of dirt, which begs me to wonder how many times would I have to wash my floor with either a mop or with a Tineco mop to have pretty clean or clear water. And maybe that's something I'll think about for a future video. In total, I think it took me like a quarter of the time to clean my entire downstairs with the Tineco, as opposed to what it took me with the bucket mop. The awesome thing is I always had one hand free to move around like furniture or chairs. I didn't have to stand there and have both hands on the mopping pole. I was able to just use it like a vacuum, and one hand was always free to move around and do and pick up things or move things around. So the floor dried so much faster. I used so much less water, and I did not have a soaking wet floor, which is great, which is something that you may be concerned about if you're using it on hardwood floors that tend to be very sensitive to water. Okay, quickly, with all of that said, let's quickly talk about cleanup time. So with the Ocedar bucket mop, the only thing I had to do was dump out the dirty water, rinse the tank, and then I also like to pop in the mop head into the washer to wash it, dry it, and then it's ready for me to use next time. In contrast with the Tineco, all I had to do was also to dump out the dirty water tank, make sure that all the filters were rinsed, ready to go, and then I put the entire machine on a charging block. I press on the self-clean mode and the machine cleans itself internally. And that's basically all I had to do. One other thing that I personally like to do is maybe once a week or after a really deep clean of the entire day, I actually like to take the roller out and I like to thoroughly rinse it with some like soapy water or something. And just to make sure that there's no smell, so that I know that it's nice and dry and clean and ready to be used for my next cleaning task. Okay, if you've made it this far, you're probably wondering $49 for a bucket mop, or upwards of $400 or $500 for a 2-in-1 Tineco cleaning system. I personally purchased my Tineco mop for under $200 right before Christmas, and I have completely replaced my bucket mop with the Tineco, completely, entirely. The only time I use this bucket mop is now for this video to compare things. With that being said, if my toddler were to destroy my Tineco mop, if it were to fall off of the stairs and be shattered into a million pieces, I would today, without hesitation, go and pay $400 for it. That is how much I love it. That is what works for my family, and that is the only way that our floors stay clean. So I don't have to deal with back-breaking buckets. I don't have to deal with having to sweep the floor right before having to mop it. And I also don't have to worry about washing or replacing any kind of mop heads in the future. Both systems will get your floor cleaner than it was before, but the Tineco for me is a game changer. If you can afford it, if you can get it on sale, this thing is a game changer. I absolutely love it. I think it totally beats out any bucket system out there. I, for one, was extremely skeptical before even purchasing this thing because, number one, I know it's expensive, but hands down, I simply cannot go back. I hope you guys enjoyed this video of me comparing both systems. Let me know if you have any more questions or insights on either system. maybe something that might work better. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next one.